Before I start this video, I want to dedicate this segment to someone that we in the music community lost very recently. As of now recording this, yesterday we have lost a talented musician and producer named Sophie. I want to dedicate this time to shout her out and some of the music that she made to change and innovate the pop and electronic music landscapes. She was a true pioneer in bubblegum bass and hyperpop, and I want to shout out two projects that you should check out from her if you haven't listened to her before already. The first one is called Product. It's a compilation of a bunch of singles that she released around the year that it came out. And then she made her debut full-length album in 2018, Oil of Every Pearl's on Insides. I highly recommend you check both of them out. Rest in peace, Sophie. You were a revolutionary figure in the trance and music communities, and we will never forget you. With that out of the way, welcome to a brand new segment where I am going to be doing a quick little roundup of all the albums I listened to in January. I have a lot to catch up on, a lot of thoughts to kind of process. There's a couple of albums I haven't even listened to yet, and I'll get to those if I can. This is gonna be just a short collection of reviews recorded at various times of the day, and I hope you enjoy and get something out of it. I don't want to spoil too much about this because this is exclusive to fan club members, although if you are a fan of Def's Dynamic Shroud, I do recommend subscribing to it. This is a shorter and much more mature version of Teen Fantasy Mystic Quest, which was one of their earliest mixtapes. It was a slow slog of ambient pop samples that just really never caught my attention, and given 7+ years of experience that they would have since then, this is much better. This is definitely a much more enjoyable take on that kind of sound with a lot more unique qualities and standout moments to say about it. I've definitely been a little bit skeptical of Fax Gang and Hex D when I first heard about it and that it was blowing up, and I kind of worry still that it's going to be the witch house of the 2020s. It's going to blow up with an EP and an album and then fade into obscurity. But this one does have some potential. It has weak spots, but there's definitely a lot of cathartic moments on it. I think it's worth a shot.
Middle with new slurs, new verbs, new curves, new nouns,
I definitely don't have too much to say about the lyrics. I'm probably the last person you should ask about abstract hip-hop. It's a very hit or miss genre for me, but rap Ferreira has always intrigued me, and this is probably one of my favorite things he's ever done. It's a very, very cool, I love the production, most especially. Very, very cool ideas and unique ideas with samples and all that sort of stuff. I think it's a good listen. I think you should check it out. Liminal Spaces is a compilation from an artist that I've appreciated from a distance. He makes so much albums and EPs and all that sort of stuff, it's hard to keep up. And on top of that, they're done in a sort of style of vaporwave and mallsoft that is kind of scrappy, very rough, and definitely experimental. I've not been able to tune into much, and this compilation kind of showcases why. It's definitely got a few clever and unique ideas up in his sleeve more often than not, but he often tumbles down the path of overstretched, needlessly compressed, awfully distorted and constantly meandering samples and tracks that just keep me from wanting to discover his true potential. I can appreciate him doing this for fun and nothing really too ambitious. I've just got to accept that it's not for me. In my head. I feel like I'm not in a position to say too much about the ambition behind this EP. It's otherwise a fairly okay R&B album. It doesn't really blow me away that much aside from one specific track, preluded by an interlude about a girl marrying another girl and then cheating on her. And I think that's very unique, and the song following that being basically about that, I'm very happy to see more of these themes that we normally see with heterosexual relationships and taken into an LGBT friendly context. I think there's more stories like that that needs to be told these days. Otherwise, it's fine. It's an okay listen. It's good to hear Anderson .Paak again. I'll say that much.
Nice. Nice.
This is just a bunch of cool but half-assed ideas and not the right people to take them seriously. Cool ideas, and that's it. It's just not really a serious kind of album. It's jokey, but not in a way that makes any better. I feel like with the right people, this would be a much better record. This is a 10-minute Signal Wave EP. If you've heard a Signal Wave project before, you've already heard a lot of Signal Wave at this point. I even heard a sample from another album on here too. I like the weird phaser effect that hasn't really been used in Signal Wave much, and one of the tracks is definitely unique. I think it was the 8th track.
Number 9.
Otherwise, this is just plain mid. I don't know why I'm even talking about it here. This is serviceable, this is passable, this is absolutely nothing new or unique. There are so many other vaporwave and late night lo-fi albums that sound just like this and achieve so much more. Thematically, conceptually, and especially in samples and production, they do so much more than this one does. This is mid to the extreme. This is just okay. Yeah, this is definitely a power pop EP. It's definitely competent and enjoyable for what it is. It's honestly pretty unremarkable, but hey, I mean, what else do you want me to say about it? My favorite track was Lovesick. What's yours? No, I do. You know, it's just like my childhood. Some of the sweetest candy you can find can have some of the ugliest packaging you've ever seen. This is a really fun album. This is a really fun, energetic, noise pop, indie rock record. I don't have too much to say about it. I think you should check it out. This is a neat little set of ambient loops and cinematic soundscapes, but there's really just not much more than that. I feel like Sangam's tendency to make repetitive and not too engrossing ambient textures and tracks isn't really helped by the addition of Yoshimi. It's definitely an interesting release though. I loved it on first listen, but I just didn't think it had that much more to offer when I came back to it. Definitely give it a shot though. I definitely don't have too much to say about Drunk Tank Pink. I listened to it and my most immediate thought is, didn't Idols already release an album last year? But it's otherwise a good album. Definitely a worthy experience for you to listen to. There are moments of the album that are energetic, there are some moments of the album that are deadpan. I honestly just don't have too much to say about this album. It's not really notable, but it's definitely enjoyable and easy to recommend. This is just boring. This one is just so boring and polished to an unnecessary degree. And it's completely unoriginal too. I've already listened to Telepath's Anata Omate. I don't need to hear the sample again in a different song. I'll admit, I was never the most instant fan of the vocals for Black Dresses, both Ada and Devi. So I hoped going into Devi's newest project, I was going to get something interesting out of it. But her going in a bit of a 2000s-ish punk rock direction with her typical industrial elements in there just didn't really do anything for me. Her vocals were just very tough to listen to, especially one track that nearly triggered me. The way she refrained "no one cares" in that yelpy voice, that sounds exactly like my meltdowns. The production isn't impressive either. I don't like this album. I am a sucker, a softie for EDM. So you give me an album like this that is very atmospheric and honestly very pretty, and I like it a lot. I also listened to their debut self-titled very recently to make sure that me enjoying this album wasn't a fluke, and I'm happy to say it wasn't. I hope. I love the album cover, I love the sound palette, I love all the cool textures and structures and cool melodies and ideas that this little album has. It doesn't have anything that really blows me away aside from the cover art, but it's definitely a good time. Shout out to Rick the Lie on this one. I was very curious about it as soon as I heard his very amazing and detailed review about the culture and history behind this album. I gave it a listen. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous South African experience. There is definitely some moments of Kwaito on here, but otherwise, I definitely recommend giving this a shot if you're looking to branch out into experiences, even though you're probably gonna feel like a tourist at the end of it. Give it a shot. Give it a listen. Alright, look, I've never immediately got the appeal to Desert Sand Feels Warm at Night. It always just felt like a bit of a Telepath knockoff, especially since Telepath has stopped releasing music frequently as much as he used to. But diving into the catalog with what few I have listened to, I can definitely appreciate it to some extent. 023 is the third in a series of some of the slowest vaporwave albums I've ever listened to, and I've listened to Mukayete. I don't say this shit lightly. I like listening to slow, beautiful ambient music that can be good to listen to, but to also be good to actively listen into. And this album is just 5 sleeping pills. I appreciate it. It's beautiful in some spots. It's very pretty sounding, but it does not need to be this long. It does not need to be this drawn out. If I wanted a long, beautiful, sleepy, but also actively enjoyable experience, I'd much rather listen to Seiken Seiko. Before I conclude this video, I want to shout out 4 more projects real quick. First off, I want to shout out Astroblur for her debut album, Star Bloom Odyssey. It is a very cool, very beautiful, futuristic synthwave album. Definitely worth your time. I also want to shout out Chelsea Shopping from the Ground, a harsh noise trio if you're interested in harsh noise, especially harsh noise that is raw and uncompromised. Definitely give it a shot. I also want to shout out Notilde Tapes, a brand new label of future funk and synth pop releases. There's a new compilation out right now with a handful of very fun tracks that you should try. And finally, I want to shout out Women's Walking, an anonymous vaporwave project from a friend that put out a mix of songs made by another friend before those songs were stolen and then deleted by someone else. It's a weird situation. Think of it as a time capsule because it's a very interesting concept. And that is it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Obviously, there's a few albums I haven't fully reviewed yet or even listened to begin with. I'm trying to catch up with as much as I can. It's a stressful time that we're at right now, especially since I'm going to be moving very soon. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.